At any moment, we can allow the creator of the universe to be experienced in our consciousness, even though the creator is the fundamental foundation for all co-creations. Oh. So, I would like to tune in to the creator consciousness. And I would just like to release I am Osiris. I am one who is willing to speak through anyone if they will affirm the path on a critical level in their own life. And one might ask, is a critical level enough? Or must one be completely on the path of self-transcendence, of exposing the ego, exposing the elite, exposing the lies, the illusions, the darkness, the fears, the subconscious traumas, the reactionary patterns, the warped history? And I can only speak through people within a certain degree based on their own development. And this being can only harbor a certain degree of my consciousness. But yet, he doesn't even have to affirm that it is I. For the I is one. The I we all have. And so, I would like to address a movement called the Inner Council, where people can come together with their minds, their hearts, their experiences, and rise above the disagreements, even though there will be disagreements throughout the cycles, for how to build the mystery school, the school of remembering. And this is the classroom. This is the stage. This is the dream, the afterlife, the eternal essence that will never have any death upon any being unless they choose the second form, the second death, which I will not go into right now, but there is a further educational process for Savaya that he can go through with some of you, but this is not a formal one. But there are sources where there are beings and principles, virtues and entities that are here to help humanity. And I am a spokesperson for a certain collective. And we are here to say, we will speak through anyone, we will work through anyone, we will live through anyone who chooses to recognize what is in the heart, what is in the consciousness behind all life, and still mark the cross between those forms that are intolerable towards the diverse, cultural, humanitarian experience, wanting to raise one side above another, or to ignore the details, the context, and still detach from identifying with the form, the matter, the story. And so, sometimes the glasses can suggest something, but I wish to tell you that it's always good to question any material from whatever source. And it's important to remember there's a certain amount of the individual being that will have filtered out some of the core energy that can be brought into the intuition, that can be brought into practice, into logic. But at this time, we can create a fund. And it is a fundamental aspect of developing cohesion into the long-term future. A fund that is about spiritual, psychological, and discerning inspection, metered and balanced, equalized and integrated with introspection. That is the inner council that will form the outer council of those who have raised their consciousness to the degree in which they see the loops, the patterns, the chaff, the cut, the difference, the shift. And as we are here today, there are a variety of beings in the school of remembering that not only will work with you, but will express a alternate foundation, or paradigm might be the better word, in the field that you are magnetized towards, exposing the elements of ego and elitism, but even going into the original records, the history, for how exactly Earth is a midpoint in the universe for a variety of different civilizations and evolving group souls. And Savaya is going to work with us on some level as he is trying to see ways of contacting the point of synergy in order to build the online infrastructure and the infrastructure in person, face to face. As the internet isn't always necessarily a physical phenomenon, as it can easily be an emotional or a mental phenomenon that doesn't have some grounding bridges. And so in the closing statement, it's important that we find ways for us to sustain ourselves individually. But I think we are moving in a time where it's equally as important to know how we can sustain ourselves collectively as a small community at first, but then building it larger into the future as we agree to certain principles and filter out those poisons that wish to manipulate our free will into thinking we cannot unite and experience our oneness and have a prosperous situation, an excellent situation, and still be able to be a leader or work towards that in a way where it's not about work so much, but it's about living and life and play and courage, matched with a variety of other aspects. We can have the alchemical fusion of the next phase. And this is not just a collective experience, it is also an individual experience. But with this being said, you're welcome to support Savaya through the Western Union. But he was thinking about what's the Eastern Union? And is it related to money? Is it related to individualism? And whatever we want to think, what the East needs from the West is something that the West has that cannot fully be completed without the East. And that is what I talked about a little bit earlier. How can we create a fund set of principles, a type of vision to live for, not just work for, is something that may be too difficult to release through this instrument, as there are some other limitations that we do not recommend or encourage, that pulls him into the cult of Saturn, the black cube. But he is not really on the left-handed path. And he deals with the projections of the left-handed path, as everyone does on some level every day. But if you want to support him individually, that is something that can assist, because this is a class and we are learning as we go, but yet you can be the teacher and I can be the student. When a certain instance happens, and it's amazing how the universe works. But it's not just working, it's also living. And so work is a phenomenon that is part of a denser consciousness. But for now, there is work that Savaya can do to research the process of having a fund. But before we can have a financial fund, we must agree to a spiritual, psychological, and inner fund that allows us to recognize and hold accountable those parts of our consciousness that will be able to make it through the initiation of the cycle. And the cycle is about acceleration. It's about change, it's about adaptability, but it's also about challenging, questioning, daring. Kindness, compassion, discernment, wisdom. The words are also living beings, and people forget this. But nevertheless, that is what I wish to say. And I guess one thing that arises as the close was it was suggested, until he thought it in his mind, you're not going to say anything else about who you are. People can research who I am if they research who they are, truly. But Osiris, I am. I am one of the leading architects that fostered a certain group soul matrix for Atlantean and Egyptian and furthermore cultural evolutions involving secret societies, but without idolizing and aggrandizing, justifying the perversion of the different cults that originally were pure in form, going back to the early Atlantean transition after the fall of Lemuria. Some of this is hard to recognize in history, but I am here with any of you to help guide what information really reflects the story of humanity. And it's a complex one that often takes hundreds of lifetimes, thousands for others. But one thing remains certain: I'm here with all of you, and whatever name you go by, whatever name you call me, which I have been known as Osiris, even though there is an initiatory name that is not given to those who are on the outer circle. But on the inner circle, there are certain names that allow us to recognize there is beauty in the name of the student. And with that being said, that is all I wish to say. Thank you for reflecting the creator of the universe that is tied to another creator of the universe, with its own branches and constellations and stellated, interwoven, just infinitude, paint-brushed, sparkling beings of life igniting into evolution. That is our essence. It is our future. It is what we forgot in the beginning for some. But for others, we did not choose to descend into the realm of hard-heartedness. We rise through the universe in the other direction. But your direction is not without what we might consider pain and struggle. But I have to close now, for the vehicle that stands in the mouthpiece for my being, even though he has limitations of my being. I will seal this message in the golden flame of the universal thread that attracts the vibrations that expose the duality, the fear, the poison, that there ever was any separation to begin with.